habitat assessment in India. Global standards. Prescriptive global standards for NBIS could provide a pathway for greater project financing. Financing incentives. Integrating NBIS into existing pipelines of grey infrastructure delivery systems can be a way to achieve scale, reduce loss and damage to infrastructure assets, and prevent loss of biodiversity. Conclusion. The long design life cycles of many infrastructure assets will be key to making investments resilient and configure development trajectories in the decades to come. At the same time, strengthening infrastructure resilience is critical to address existential risks associated with catastrophic climate change and biodiversity loss. 5.2 Glacial Lake Outburst Flood, GLOF. Why in the news? Sikkim witnessed glacial lake outburst flood, GLOF, due to bursting of the southern bank of the South Lonak Lake. Causes for Sikkim flash floods. The Sikkim disaster was primarily triggered by a catastrophic combination of factors. Glacier melting. Sikkim's South Lonak Lake, situated in a high-altitude glaciarized region, experienced accelerated melting due to climate change. This led to the lake's expansion. GLOF event. The pressure and volume reached a critical point, causing the lake to breach its boundaries. The resulting GLOF, combined with excessive rainfall due to cloudburst, triggered the devastating flash floods. GLOF is a sudden and catastrophic event where a glacial lake, often dammed by a glacier or moraine, bursts open, releasing an immense volume of water, rocks, and debris downstream. Chungthang Dam. The floodwaters reached the Teesta 3 hydel project at Chungthang via the Lakhen River and were worsened by release of water from Chungthang Dam. About glacial lakes and GLOFs. Glacial lakes are large bodies of water that sit in front of, on top of, or beneath a melting glacier. As they grow larger in size, they become more dangerous because glacial lakes are mostly dammed by unstable ice or sediment composed of loose rock and debris. Due to global warming, glacier are retreating and glacier lakes are expanding in the size and numbers. Glacial lake outburst flood, GLOF, is a sudden release of a significant amount of water retained in a glacial lake, irrespective of the cause. GLOF vulnerability in India. As per recent ICIMOD report, Hindu Kush Himalaya, HIY's assessment report, in the event of global warming between 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius, by 2100, glacier are set to lose 30 to 50% of their volume compared with 2015. More than 9 million people in high mountain Asia, HMA, surrounded by mountain ranges of Tian Shan, Pamir, Hindu Kush, Karakoram, Himalaya and Kilian Shan, are vulnerable to glacial lake outbursts. India has witnessed at least 3 highly devastating GLOF events in the Ganga and Brahmaputra basins over the last decade: Kedarnath 2013, Chamoli 2021, and Sikkim 2023. 60 www.vision. Causes for flash floods. Increased flow in streams, short and seasonal rivers, tributaries and the main river stem after the initiation of high-intensity rainfall is largely the genesis of flash floods. Cloudburst refers to an extreme amount of rain that occurs in a short span of time. Predicting cloudbursts is extremely difficult. Rainstorms. According to IMD, rainstorms are characterized by either substantial, extreme or heavy rainfall over a particular area for a particular period. Human-induced interventions. Continuous push towards centralized development and increasing tourism economy is leading to haphazard construction in vulnerable regions. These include commissioning of hydropower projects in vulnerable regions prone to seismicity, landslides, and other disasters. Unsustainable and unplanned infrastructure in ecologically fragile zones. Climate change and increased warming of the planet due to anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases and pollutants. Flood mitigation measures. National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, it issues guidelines for management of floods and specifies roles of various central and state agencies. NDMA issued guidelines on management of GLOFs in 2020, urban flooding in 2010, and flood management in 2008. Refer infographic. Structural measures, creation of reservoir, depressions, embankments, channelization of rivers, improvement of channel and drainage, watershed management, etc. Floodplain zoning, it aims at demarcating zones likely to be affected by floods of different magnitudes or frequencies, and specify the types of permissible developments in these zones. Early warning system, NDMA, has planned to install early warning systems for real-time alerts at most of 56 at-risk glacial lakes in India. Guidelines for hydro projects. Central Electricity Authority, CEA, has issued guidelines for slope stability, inclines that can withstand movement, in hydropower projects. Measures that can be taken. Risk assessment. Comprehensive risk assessment of vulnerable regions should inform disaster risk reduction strategies. Monitoring and data collection. Intense monitoring and forecasting of meteorological events near vulnerable glacier lakes and rivers is an urgent necessity. Climate mitigation. Climate mitigation efforts and adaptive measures need to be taken to protect communities and infrastructure from the escalating risks. Use of technology. Vulnerable zones can be identified using remote sensing and geographic information system, GIS, and drone and light detection and ranging, LiDAR, technology. Collective resilience. Institutionalizing social, cultural and localized knowledge and practices for developing local warning systems and to build collective resilience. Green-grey infrastructure, retention basins, wetlands, vegetation shields, sediment traps, flood walls, diversion channels, etc. can improve the geomorphology of the mountain rivers. Also, infrastructure projects in mountains, dams, bridges and highways must be subjected to stringent quality control measures. 61. EPIC Response Framework. World Bank has put forward a new perspective to better manage flood and drought risks. The EPIC Response Framework, enable, plan, invest, control. 5.3, News in Shorts. 5.3.1, Coral Reef Breakthrough. Coral Reef Breakthrough was launched by International Coral Reef Initiative, ICRI, in partnership with Global Fund for Coral Reefs and High-Level Climate Champions. It aims to prevent extinction of at least 125,000 square kilometers of shallow water tropical coral reefs. Action plans to achieve target mitigate local drivers of loss including land-based sources of pollution, destructive coastal development, and overfishing. Bolster resilience-based coral reef conservation efforts by aligning with and surpassing global coastal protection targets including 30 by 30. Target 3 of Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, i.e., at least 30% of terrestrial and inland water areas and marine and coastal areas should be conserved by 2030. Assist development and implementation of innovative solutions at scale and climate-smart designs that support coral to impact 30% of degraded reefs by 2030. Secure investments of at least $12 billion by 2030 from public and private sources to conserve and restore coral reef. Coral reefs are made up of colonies of hundreds to thousands of tiny individual corals, called polyps. These marine invertebrate animals have hard exoskeletons made of calcium carbonate. In India, coral reefs are present in Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar, Andaman and Nicobar, and Lakshadweep Islands. 5.3.2 Sustainable Finance. A report on sustainable finance was released by UNESCAP titled Sustainable Finance, Bridging the Gap in Asia and the Pacific. Sustainable finance refers to the financing of sustainable activities, as well as finance that is sustainably managed. Key findings: there is sufficient capital and liquidity to close the global financing gap in sustainable finance. Asia-Pacific region is not on track to meet the SDGs by 2030. Only 17 of the 51 Asia-Pacific countries party to the UNFCCC have assessed and reported their financial needs to meet the nationally determined contributions, NDCs. Average economic losses resulting from disasters and other natural hazards in the region may increase to $1.1 trillion to $1.4 trillion. Climate change under a high emission scenario could impose 35% GDP losses in India by 2100. Recommendations. Action for policymakers, regulators and private finance includes commitments to net zero pledges for 2050 with credible transition pathways including 2030 goals. Policy coherence and capacities developed across key government ministries, reducing sectoral and regional mismatches between capital and investment needs. Local currency financing of energy transition projects, as well as green technologies and other net zero investments. Concessional financing and risk sharing by multilateral development banks, bilateral development financial institutions, etc. 62 www.visioneers. 5.3.3 Net Zero Roadmap. A report on Net Zero Roadmap was released by International Energy Agency, IEA, titled A Global Pathway to Keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal in reach. Key highlights of the report. Limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is becoming harder, but a narrow window remains because clean energy infrastructure has grown around the world. Clean energy like solar power, electric car are among technologies which together deliver 1/3 of the emissions reductions between today and 2030 in the pathway. Suggestions: tripling renewables capacity by the end of the decade, using carbon capture, utilization and storages, etc. 5.3.4 Climate impact, loss and damage in Sundarbans. Experts from India and Bangladesh believe that climate change triggered loss and damage in the Sundarbans should be seen as a global common. This is because the region gets significantly affected despite contributing minimally to carbon emissions. Global commons are areas and their potential economic resources that lie beyond national jurisdiction, high sea, atmosphere, Antarctica, and outer space, and to which all nations have access. Conventions and treaties to govern global commons include United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, 1982, Antarctic Treaty System, Treaty on Principles Governing Activities of States in Exploration and Use of Outer, etc. Sundarbans is a cluster of low-lying islands in Bay of Bengal, spread across India 40% and Bangladesh 60%. It lies on the delta of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers. It is the largest area of mangrove forest in the world. It is designated as a cultural UNESCO World Heritage Site and accorded the status of wetland of international importance under Ramsar Convention. Fauna: estuarine crocodile, Royal Bengal tiger, water monitor lizard, Gangetic dolphin, olive ridley turtle, etc. Threats: vulnerable to floods, earthquakes, cyclones, sea level rise and coastline erosion. 5.3.5 Cutting methane from fossil fuels. A report titled Imperative of Cutting Methane from Fossil Fuels was prepared by International Energy Agency, IEA, with contributions from UNEP and UNEP-convened Climate and Clean Air Coalition, CCAC. CCAC, founded in 2012, is the only international body working to reduce short-lived climate pollutants methane, black carbon. 63 hydrofluorocarbons that drive both climate change and air pollution. Key findings. Targeted methane mitigation from fossil fuels could avoid 0.1 degrees Celsius warming by 2050. Without targeted action on methane, increase in global average surface temperature will likely exceed 1.6 degrees Celsius by 2050. Methane mitigation by 2050 can prevent nearly 1 million premature deaths due to ozone exposure. 90 million tons of crop losses, wheat, rice, soy and maize, due to ozone and climate changes. About 85 billion hours of lost labor due to heat exposure. Methane, CH4, is a greenhouse gas and responsible for 30% of global warming. Around 580 million tons of methane is emitted every year globally, 60% of which comes from human activities, landfills, agricultural practices, wastewater treatment, etc. It is the second largest contributor to climate change after carbon dioxide. 5.3.6 Decarbonization of the cement industry. In the cement industry, pyroprocessing, limestone and clay are heated in a kiln at more than 400 OC, and calcination, calcium carbonate, CaCO3, is heated, are major processes which cause carbon emissions. Need of decarbonization in the cement industry. It is the second largest industrial emitter in the world, after iron and steel. Contributes about 7% of CO2 emissions globally. Important to achieve commitments of net zero emissions by 2050, or by 2070, as pledged by India. Challenges in India. India is one of the fastest urbanizing countries, and is witnessing a housing and infrastructure boom. Lack of availability of alternatives for pyroprocessing and calcination. Limited initiatives and economic measures promote sectoral energy efficiency enhancements. Measures increase the share of blended cement, minimizing the use of limestone by using another substitute. Increase the share of recycled materials in production. More utilization of alternative fuels like refuse-derived fuel, RDF, industrial waste and biomass. Using innovative technologies like carbon capture, utilization and storage, CCUS. 5.3.7 India running out of phosphorus is one of the macronutrient Macronutrients essential for plant growth, which is required by plants for O. Photosynthesis process. O. Energy transfer and nutrient movement within the plant. O. Strong root development. O. Transfer of genetic characteristics. India is the world's largest importer of phosphorus, most of it from the cadmium-laden deposits of West Africa. 64 WW. O-phosphate rocks are majorly produced only from two states in India, namely Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. O-some deposits are also present in the central part of peninsular India, Lalitpur, Uttar Pradesh, Mussoorie Syncline, and Kadapa Basin, Andhra Pradesh. Concerns with phosphorus availability. O. At most places, phosphorus coexists with cadmium, a heavy metal whose removal is expensive. O. Handful of countries such as Morocco, Western Sahara, China, Algeria etc. control most of the world's reserves of phosphorus, which is a major geopolitical concern. Harmful effects of phosphorus. O. Much of phosphorus is lost directly to water bodies as agricultural runoff and through sewage, which leads to growth of toxic algal blooms. O. Cadmium-laden fertilizers are often applied to the soil, absorbed by crops, and consumed, bioaccumulating in human bodies accelerating heart disease. 5.3.8 Conocarpus trees. It is an invasive mangrove species, recently banned by Gujarat government. Earlier, Telangana government had also banned it. Conocarpus is a genus of two species of flowering plants in family of Combretaceae, native to tropical regions of the world. O. It is widely used in public spaces for its ornamental looks. O. Flowering in this tree takes place in winter and the particles spreading from it causes cold, coughing, asthma, allergy etc. harms to human beings nearby. O. Roots of this species go deep inside soil and develop extensively, damaging telecommunication lines, drainage lines and freshwater systems. 5.3.9 Amazon River Basin. As Lake Purukwaquara dried up, floating village have turned to mud flats. Lake lies on Amazon River Basin, which is facing severe drought due to El Niño and the warming of northern tropical Atlantic Ocean waters. O. These climate phenomena are aggravated by global warming and burning of fossil fuels. Amazon River Basin. O. Largest drainage basin in the world. O. Covers about 34% of South America. O. Harbors till the 60% of world's rainforest and harbors 10% of planet's known forms of life. Countries covered: Brazil, Equator and Tropic of Capricorn both pass through it, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname, and Venezuela. The 5th of March, 10, petroleum coke or pet coke. Supreme Court has asked Commission for Air Quality Management, CAQM, to consider issues related to distribution of highly polluting pet coke. Pet coke is a carbon-rich solid material derived from final cracking process of crude oil refining. It is used as a replacement of coal due to its high calorific value. It is hydrophobic, less volatile and produces low ash residue. It is used in cement manufacturing, lime kilns, industrial boilers, aluminum anodes, etc. The 5th of March, 11. Unified Registration Portal for Gabarden. Portal seeks to streamline the registration of compressed biogas, CBG, and biogas plants nationwide. OCBG, of biogas plants registered in the portal are eligible for assistance of 1,500 rupees per metric ton under the Market Development Assistance, MDA, scheme of the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. GOB Ayodan, Galvanizing Organic Bioagro Resources DAN, scheme under the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Aim, to generate wealth and energy by converting cattle dung, agricultural residue, and other organic waste into biogas, CBG, and biofertilizers. The 5th of March, 12, polyethylene terephthalate degrading enzyme, PET46. Researchers have identified a PET46 from a deep-sea microorganism for the first time. 65 www.vision. OPET is a lightweight plastic that is widely used for packaging foods and beverages, example, soft drinks, water, etc. PET 46 enzyme unique is in its ability to degrade both long-chain and short-chain PET molecules, enabling continuous degradation. Significance: O potentially break down PET waste in the ocean, effectively contributing to efforts to combat plastic pollution. O contribute to understanding of ecological role of deep-sea AEA marine organism. O other PET degrading enzymes PETase, MHETase, THC_cut1 etc. The 5th of March, 13, Manus mysteria, newly discovered species of pangolin. Scientists have discovered a new species of highly endangered pangolin. About pangolins. O only mammals wholly covered in scales. O4 species live in Africa: black-bellied pangolin, white-bellied pangolin, giant ground pangolin, and Temminck's ground pangolin. O4 species found in Asia: Indian pangolin, Philippine pangolin, Sunda pangolin, and the Chinese pangolin. O IUCN status: Chinese, Philippine, and Sunda pangolins are listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. O Indian pangolin, listed in Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act, 1972, and as endangered on IUCN Red List. The 5th of March, 14, damselfly species. A new damselfly species found in the Western Ghats, Kerala, named Armageddon reedtail. The name, Armageddon reedtail, is a direct reference to the concept of ecological Armageddon, a term used to describe the devastating decline of insect populations around the world. Ecological role: insects play crucial roles in pollination, nutrient cycling, and as a food source for other animals. The 5th of March, 15, fish mint. Herbal plant full of medicinal properties distribution, extends from the Himalayan foothills through Southeast Asia, China, Korea and Japan. Owen Meghalaya, known as J. A. Mado, Tokmingkok in Manipur, in Assam, as Masunduri. Features, has a fish-like taste and smell. Hence the name, fish mint. Invasive plant. Because of its ability to regrow from underground rhizomes forming new plants when disturbed. Medicinal properties, used to treat digestive issues, insect bites, fevers, coughs, etc. Its benefits have been documented in ancient texts of Ayurveda and Siddha. The 5th of March, 16. Dancing frogs. Dancing frogs of the Western Ghats are considered one of the most threatened amphibian genera, as the second global amphibian assessment of IUCN, O'Nilgiri dancing frog, is listed as vulnerable, and white-cheeked dancing frog is listed as endangered on IUCN list. 6. They are threatened by invasive species, land use change, extreme weather, etc. Named so as they perform foot flagging, in which males stretch up their hind legs one at a time and wave their webbed toes in air in a rapid motion akin to a dance. The 5th of March, 17, pink bollworm. Damage by pink bollworm, PBW, to BT cotton worst in 2 decades, OBT, Bacillus thuringiensis, cotton which incorporates genes from a soil bacterium code for proteins toxic to American bollworm. Pink bollworm, PBW, scientific name, Pectinophorogossypiella, Saunders, O. bollworm is any larvae of various moths. Native to, possibly the eastern Indian Ocean region. Impact, adults lay eggs on cotton bolls. Once hatched, the larvae eat the seeds and damage the fibers of the cotton, reducing the yield and quality. The 5th of March, 18, Kamlang Tiger Reserve. Kamlang Tiger Reserve conducted a butterfly walk and nature trail event for the first time ever in association with NGOs. About Kamlang Tiger Reserve. It is located in the Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh and is named after the Kamlang River which flows through it. Climate, subtropical. Flora. Common species of trees include Amora wallacei, Amari, Gelina arborea, Agamari, etc. Fauna, snow leopard, clouded leopard, tiger, Himalayan palm civets, hornbill, etc. Glow Lake falls within this reserve. The 5th of March, 19, 15-minute cities. It is an urban planning concept that advocates putting essential services within walking or biking distance of residents to reduce pollution. It is a spatial development model to help foster a more local, healthy, equitable, and sustainable way of life. 67 www.visioneers.nwa.vision. 6. Social issues. 6.1. Supreme